What's up, St. Louis? Jamal Mayers here. Want a chance to watch the Blues like an insider with me? When you become an annual STL Sports Central insider, you're automatically entered to win. We're picking 2 winners, each bringing a guest to join me in the Blues Alumni Suite for the game versus the Edmonton Oilers on Friday, March 13th. That's right, Connor McDavid. We'll have free drinks, heavy appetizers, and an unforgettable night of Blues hockey. Sign up now at STL Sports Central, and I'll see you at the game.
And welcome to the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. That's Matthew Rocchio. That is Joe Roderick, who's with us from Jupiter, Florida. And, oh, by the way, in addition to the ability to go and watch a hockey game with Jamal Mayers, guys, tomorrow it's happy birthday for STL Sports Central. That's right. We're going to be a year old, and we've got a big 1-year anniversary of STL Sports Central to celebrate. We're going to give away prizes that include tickets as well as autographed merch courtesy of Joe Yancey and Fanfare Collectibles. Find out how to register and win on all St. Louis STL Sports Central social media accounts. There you see how to enter on the screen right there, and we want you to win some stuff, so get entered. All right, gentlemen, hope all is well. Let's start with Joe Roderick, who's down in Florida covering the Cardinals and doing a great job of it. Joe Rod, how's it going down there?
It's going good. Today was Hall of Fame Day in Jupiter. Ozzie Smith was here, and Yadier Molina showed up today as well. Told us that he's going to be here for at least this first week, or at least the next week of training camp, of spring training, before he goes off with Team Puerto Rico for the WBC. So he was here, and I'll tell you this. So we get here. We hadn't seen Yadi yet when the clubhouse opened at 8, and kind of looking around like, okay, well, who's here? You're starting to see more and more position players pop up, and you realize there is not a single catcher in the clubhouse at 8 a.m. because they had gotten there before everybody else had gotten there, and they were already out on the fields working with Yadi in the morning. So no clue when they actually showed up and when they got to work with everything, but Yadi had them out on the field. That's the picture that the Cardinals have posted from their social media accounts with Yadi and all the catchers. That happened well before 8 a.m. That picture was taken. So that's just kind of shows that he got in here and he got working with them. And then you have seen, we posted a few videos and pictures of Yadi on the field with Pozo and Pajes and Herrera talking to them before they went into their full defensive drills today. And he's, just kind of doing stuff with them. I know the Cardinals posted a few pictures of him. It looks like just hands-on little things here and there with some of the catchers who we can't even, if I saw their number, I can identify them, but in the pictures, we have no idea who these guys are. But all of that said, I'm talking a lot about catchers in this situation. It was asked of Oli in the audio only portion of our talk with him today. Somebody said, who do you want Yadi to spend time with? Who do you want to take the most away from this week with Yadi? And Oli just held up his paper with every single name of every single Cardinal on it. And he said, these guys, every single one. He's like, I don't care if they're a catcher, they're a pitcher, they're a shortstop. He's like, I want every single person to take something away from Yadi while he's here working with us.
And first of all, it's great to hear and see that he's that engaged, because Matthew, you and I have talked a lot about that, about whether or not he would be. To have him show up early, and then get the players out there with him, to me, is huge. And to that last point that you made, Joe, and Matthew, I want you to weigh in here too, because a lot of times with young players in all sports now, the biggest question you have about them when you watch him play is he a really competitive guy? I think if there's one thing that he can imbue into these young players that Yadier Molina can help them with, is their level of competitiveness, because you never questioned until he went to visit his basketball team in Puerto Rico. You never questioned Yadier Molina's competitiveness when he was on the field. He's an intensely competitive guy. And if some of the players that he works with during the spring can adapt to some of that competitiveness, that's going to be a huge win for the Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about what he can bring, and I think Joe's anecdote there, it can, moments from spring training, everyone's in the best shape ever. What people do at the plate doesn't matter. All those things are true. And I think some of these things can be a little bit blown out of proportion. But I think Joe's anecdote is exactly the mindset you want to see, which is that position, group, because of Yadi, used to kind of set the tone on the team. And I think that was the same place with probably also the pitchers. You could probably say that. And there were veterans on that team that set the tone in different ways. They might not have been, the best in the media, but there were some guys who picked up that slack. There were some guys who always, ran out first base. There were some guys who didn't. And so there was all these different ways to kind of, build the culture. We talk a lot about that. And I think, to have a guy like Yadi to show these players what that can look like, that's an important thing. We talked about that too, Randy, about this team, also not just learning how to be better baseball players this year, but also learning how to be winning baseball players this year, and how tricky that can get when you're losing a lot of games and things like that. So having a guy like Yadi who can show you how to be, a responsible winning player from that perspective as a worker, that's obviously a useful thing. And I know, Joe, there was some intimations about other legends, former Cardinals, who could be joining the Cardinals this spring as well, who will also, in addition, bring that.
Yeah, I know well, Oli mentioned it, but I know yesterday it was reported that Adam Wainwright's going to be here at some point in early on in camp. Also, I think Derek might have reported David Freeze at some point
Okay.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't heard any other names, but the way Oli kind of alluded to it, he said, "Yeah, we have a few surprises and a few other names." And he said, "I'll speak to them. Like it's not just gonna be one day we're gonna show up and somebody's gonna be there." He has said, like, "Yeah, there's a few more, and I'll talk about them in the days to come." So it looks like they're still working out a couple details on which days certain guys are going to be here, but they are working on welcoming back a lot of players, and that's something too. That today was their closed door meeting. There was their closed door introductory meeting that they did on the first day of full team workouts. And Oli, mentioned, like, it's like, hey, we had Yadi in the room, we had Ozzy in the room, we had Jason Isringhausen in the room. Like that, you have three guys wearing red jackets that are in this room, talking to these guys, addressing these guys, and letting them know, like, hey, this is, these are people that have, as he put, a lot of mileage on them, a lot of games under their belt over the years, and these guys have failed a lot in the game of baseball. Use that, go to them and talk to them about what their experiences were like, to allow them to get to the level that they still got to in playing, even though they didn't get it right every single time. So he's really, there's no leader in the clubhouse per se. We still don't know. I don't think they know. I don't think Oli can address one player right now and say that's our team leader right there. So in the meantime, you're going to Cardinal legends. And that's, I think a great way to kind of look at it right now. And he talks a lot today about the history of the St. Louis Cardinals and what it means to be a St. Louis Cardinal, and what the organization kind of expects from these guys. And this is a coaching staff that's not going into the season looking at it and going, all right, hey, 100 losses, here it comes. No, like they are fully expecting to compete with the young kids that they have.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned the possibility or probability of Adam Wainwright showing up. And I know that you and Claves have been working hard down there, and you've got an interview with Michael McGreevy. And what we're reading and hearing from Jupiter is that McGreevy might wind up becoming one of the leaders of that rotation. Are you getting that sense from him?
I mean, I think he goes in as your number two. Like that's the way I look at it. You look at who, what he did last year once he was called up for this team. And I think Bernie and I looked at it last year at the end of it. Like, if McGreevy pitched the way he pitched all season long, and if McGreevy pitch that way and you replace the Eric Fetty starts with Michael McGreevy starts in the first half of the season,
Mm-hmm.
like the Cardinals are going down to the wire as a wild card contender, if not making that final wild card over the Reds at the end of the season. And that's, it's what you look at it, and I know a lot of things would have had to fall in the right place, but that's how much better wins above replacement wise McGreevy was over a guy like Eric Fetty last season. And so why wouldn't you, if you're going to throw in there at number 2 or number 3, I don't know if Dustin May gets it due to veteran status, but again, like that's a pretty, that's not an embarrassing 1 through 3 that you're going with your starting rotation. So seeing that, if those are your staples right there, going out there and you have a series with those 3 pitching, you have a chance to win that series, I think, every time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why last week, I asked Randy this question. I guess I'll pose it now to you, Joe. Which is, which I guess it was more negative. I'll try to make it more of a positive question, because I guess my question in the moment was, which group would surprise you more to be terrible, which was the lineup or the pitching staff. I'll be more positive and I'll phrase it the other way, which is kind of, we expect, if everything goes right on the lineup side, the lineup will be more impressive than the pitching staff. But I think right now, with what we've seen based off what we know of these players as what they are as major league players, there's a lot of reasons to have more confidence, at least in the first couple of months, in the pitching staff than the lineup, in my opinion.
I'm more optimistic about the lineup because I think we have
Optimistic,
more
yes,
because I think.
But if you're being realistic, which side of the which group are you more confident of what what they're going to do in May and June, or April, May and June?
I still side with the offense, just because I think like. And maybe it is that optimism that puts me there, because I think Mason Wynn will hit a lot better than he did last year. Alec Burleson's a silver slugger. Ivan Herrera, if healthy, is going to be a superstar with his bat.
And if he's a catcher.
Yeah, and the biggest question marks, again, are Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker. And if they can just be a little bit better, like but those, I think right now, those are huge question marks.
Exactly
for those two, and
that's what I'm saying.
That's the worry. I'm very much looking forward to watching JJ Weatherholt and see how he starts, how they work him into against major league pitching, because last year he played a lot of spring games. JJ Weatherholt was in there a lot in the spring, and I think they will ease his way in there. But I'm telling you, from what I've seen for the last 2 days, we know right now, if you look at the Cardinal depth chart, like at first base, it says Alec Burleson and there's no other name out there.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that you could do that for second base and shortstop right now too. Like they were out there today doing full infield, and there were 4 guys out there. It was Nolan Gorman at third, Mason Wynn at short, JJ Weatherholt at second, and Alec Burleson at first. And the closest guy that you would look at and say, oh, that guy could be a second baseman, one was playing right field, the other one was playing left field.
I like that part, though.
Okay, so who is your opening day left fielder? If Newt Barr, who apparently is set back and really doesn't appear as if he's going to be ready to go on opening day, Joe, who's your opening day left fielder?
Claves and I talked about this on today's 365, and I think it's posted right now on YouTube. I think you could really realistically make it a race between 8 guys in left field. Like so I mean, if we're including Newt in this, if they were including Newt into this, so you have him, and then let's go Fermin and Sajasi out there. The Cardinals coaching staff loves Nathan Church. Throw his name in there. You have Josh Baez, who had a big year last year in the minors. Nelson Velasquez was out there today with them. What am I at, 7 right now?
3.
With that?
6.
Yeah, so you go with those guys, and then did I say that we put Lars in there? I mean, look at some guys in the minors with that too. Look at some other names that you can throw out there for that. I mean, Ivan Herrera again played left field last year. Burleson played left field last year. Like you don't expect either one of them to be there. Like some really weird ass things would have to happen if Alec Burleson or Ivan Herrera were opening day left fielders. Yeah. But I think when you look at all of those names and all of those possibilities of guys that are there, I think you could really say like it's anybody's race right now for that left field spot. It's who's going to be healthy and who's going to, I would think with that many people involved, who's going to win it. It's not going to be like, oh, okay, we're here. Somebody's got to go out there. Like, okay, who wants it? Go get it.
It's hard though, because if we're not really supposed to like take anything that happens in spring, for reality, who how do you make that decision in the next month?
Lots and lots of games. I mean, you have different people out there every single game, and you're having these guys split games, whether it's 2 or 3 at a time, or whether, hey, this guy's going to be my left fielder for the first 3 innings, this guy's for the next 3 innings, and then we're going to grab somebody from the minor league roster to finish the game for us. I think that's the best way you could look at that. And even if you have that many names too, you DH another one and you look at him just for hitting that day and see how he does with that. So I think, that's, again, you play a lot of spring training games and you have a lot of opportunities to throw these guys out there in those situations.
And see, this is why it's hard for me to have a ton of excitement out of the gate for the offense, because we're talking about an 8-man job, an 8-man race for the left field job. This is a position that's supposed to provide you real pop in your lineup. And we're talking about 8 people juggling it and none of them really being having what we know to have the MLB skill to really take this job and run with it. It's just, this is why it's hard for me to get excited about the lineup right now. I understand the potential. Of course it's there, but it's hard for me to get excited about it out of the gate when we're having this conversation.
Well, and I think there's a couple of things. Number one, guys, I don't think realistically we're supposed to be excited about the potential of this team to do really good things early in the season. I think it's a team that probably starts lower and goes on an upward trajectory. But I have no problem with looking at a toolsy guy like Velasquez has played in the minor or in the majors and has had some moments at the major league level, and he's a big guy with some power. And it wouldn't bother me. And Joe, tell me if you agree with this. If we get to the end of March, if they spend April with it being essentially an extended spring training for some guys, and you're still trying to figure out who you're going to have in left field and until Newbar comes back, if you wind up playing 2 or 3 guys in left field during April, that won't bother me at all.
Yeah, not at all. It's again, if it's one position on your team that you're looking at moving around that much, that's fine. That's I can live with that for until somebody outright wins it from you. So if we're just talking about one position, again, like third base, we know it's Nolan Gorman, and that's pretty much like it's his job. And you look around the rest of the shortstop, we know it's Win. Second base, if it's Weatherhold, Burley, like you have all the catching. It's going to be a little. I don't want to say maybe muddied. I don't want to say that. Maybe that's not the right word. I'm just with catching. Herrera can DH, but you also know you have other serviceable major league ready catchers that can go there and let Herrera DH. So you're going to fill this lineup every single day and not have to use a whole lot, not have to rely on some deep parts of your bench or AAA.
Joe,
by the way, one other guy we forgot to mention, and he probably did. I haven't watched the video yet. The Cardinal legend Matt Koperniak has to be on that list too, right?
Jeez.
Yeah, and you know what? He might get more reps than any of those guys in the 4 games that he gets to play for the UK before they get eliminated in pool play. Yeah,
there you go. Joe, you're talking about Ivan Herrera. You asked Oli Marmol about Ivan Herrera, the plan for him at catcher, what they've seen from him, in that first week when it was pitchers and catchers and doing their workouts independently. What did you take from Marmol's answer? Kind of what are your expectations of Ivan Herrera at spring now that everything's kind of changed and there is no WBC?
I posted a video of Herrera throwing yesterday and doing kind of pop to pop drills, like throwing down to second base. And I was right there. Like I was, standing pretty much next to the guy that was filming him and getting all of his stats from him as we're watching that. And there were many times as they're throwing, he's throwing and they're coming back and they're like, kind of working with his mechanics and working with where his arm needed to be with stuff. Because again, like he is just coming off elbow surgery. So this is, some of this is it's still in the rehab phase for him. And, if you ask Ivan Herrera, he'll tell you that, 100% like ready to go. And then you ask the coaching staff and they're like, hold on now, like let's take a step back here and let's watch everything. And I talked about this with Luke Slabaugh on Sunday. Like so when he was just playing catch, when he was out there playing catch, they were using a baseball that had black tape around it and they were looking at the release and trying to see if, what the rotation of the ball looked like, because they were trying to make sure that it was coming out of his hand the right way and everything was looking good. When he was doing the pop to pop, the video that I posted on my Twitter, and I think my Instagram too. You can go on there and you can see that they're using a regular baseball for that. Like they brought out regular baseballs that didn't have any tape on it, and he's going out there and he's working on throwing those yesterday. So, and I asked him, he walked by today and I asked him, hey, how's the arm feel about after yesterday? He said, feels great. So that's, again, I mean, that's all you can take from that is what he's telling us. And I'm sure that, we can watch it and there's going to be guys at home that, caught JV baseball that are going, oh, that's terrible. Or, oh, the mechanics aren't there. He needs to be moved. The Cardinals are looking for very specific things before they put him behind the plate in a big league game. And they have the technology to really break it down this year. And I think they're going to continue to do that over the next 6 weeks before they play in games that matter.
Do you think?
Hey guys, we get a chat from Craig Lewis. He says, do you think Bloom is done making moves this spring, or is there a move that settles left field? Probably big moves, but I kind of think there's going to be roster churn throughout the season. Today, the Cardinals sent out Brian Ramos, who they picked up last week, DFA'd him, and they brought back Zach Kent, who had been there, right-handed pitcher. He was with Texas. They brought him back to the roster. Based on Chaim Bloom's history in Tampa and what the expectations are for this team, I would think that there will be roster churn throughout the season, and we'll see tons of guys DFA'd and tons of guys getting looked at by the Cardinals.
I don't know who's out there right now. Like what name out there would be exciting for you to go out there and grab somebody to play left field and that bats right-handed?
I don't know if there is.
I don't think so either.
You got to find that guy that is what the Dodgers when they traded Yordan Alvarez to Houston. You have to, or when JD Martinez got cut by Houston and wound up with the Tigers. You need to find that guy that has been underutilized or under-taught and get him into your system and get him going.
Tommy Pham is still out there. Like, do you do that for the third time? I know he left on very good terms the last time that he was here, and they let him go to be with a contender. If you're going to do that, I think you need to have, and I don't think Tommy Pham would come in here and cause any kind of issues, but I think you need to look at, hey, like this is, it's a veteran presence. Here are a few of the guys that we're expecting to lead. Tommy, go and, help them out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm almost to the point where I'd rather get a younger guy with upside. We know what Tommy Pham is. I think with where the Cardinals are right now, and I like Tommy too, and I think that he's a guy that can bring an edge to a team, and maybe like we were talking about with Yadi, imparts a level of competitiveness. But I just think with this group of young players, I'd rather give time to the young guys. And even I'd rather see a left-handed hitter, if they like Church a lot, find out what he can do rather than bring in Tommy Pham for more of what we've seen from him.
Exactly.
That's what
I mean, we just went through this huge list of names. If these guys are hitting a combined $170 after the first month, then maybe you go and you figure out what you need to do on the outside. But there are so many guys that are going to get opportunities to take that spot. Let's see what they can do.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I like this comment here from Rick Baker. Speaking of roster churn, when looking at a potential JoJo trade, would another compensation pick like from Boston be a good return for a trade?
No, it's you know what, you're about to start games here in 5 days. The guys that are there are the guys that are there. You stick with them, and if you're going to trade JoJo, wait till you get a team that's desperate at the trade deadline for left-handed help and get as much back from them as possible.
And I think I agree with you, Joe. And the other part of it is, I do think that because Oli doesn't want to be boxed into a corner without having a lefty reliever. And the only guy that he's got down there from the left side that has any appreciable experience at all is JoJo Romero. They've got Justin Brule. Zach Thompson is in spring training. But because the players and the manager and the coaches want to win every day, I think you have to at least give them enough tools to take a shot. And if you don't have a lefty reliever, maybe Palante is your matchup guy against left-handed hitters. I don't think that I don't love that idea. I think just to not pacify, but give those guys a fighting chance, I think having JoJo Romero on the team for the first 3 or 4 months of the season is a good thing.
Yeah, who you have? I mean, you have what, that Justin Bruhill guy you
Mhm.
signed or you traded or somehow acquired him over the offseason. They all kind of just run together at this point with all of the names that they've kind of cycled in and out. But he's he's a left-handed arm that you have there, and I'll tell you this too. I mean, all eyes are going to be on Packy Naughton this
Well,
spring, and
Packy,
what a story that could be if he somehow breaks camp with the big league roster.
I,
That would be kind of wild.
I think if Mo was in charge, that he'd have a chance. I'm going to guess not now.
He said like this is the healthiest I think since the 2022 that he's coming in. Like last year he was selling real estate down in Jupiter uh during the season, and they're giving him a chance. So it could be a cool story. He's left-handed arm, so let's see where it takes you, I
He
guess.
turns 30, by the way, in April.
Yeah. So that's a veteran in the clubhouse right there.
Yeah. Speaking of the clubhouse, hey, give us a little visual of how different, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but how massive and how different the complex is. Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium and all the fields.
The clubhouse itself is enormous. No more tables in the middle of the room where they're going to eat, so the players can hide from the media over in the cafeteria if they want. But it's so huge, and I do enjoy every year when you get in there. And it's same thing in the locker room at Busch. Like you see how it's kind of arranged, like the seating arrangements, the seating charts, if you will. So I do like seeing that. I talked to Ryan Stanek yesterday. That'll be up, I believe, later on this week on the site. So I talked to him about how he's the veteran, and he kind of says, he's like, yeah, I knew like coming in I was going to be one of the older guys. And he's like, when you get there and you start to look around at some of these guys, you're like, okay, like this really starts to hit me. And I asked him at Rock, I asked him if he was Unk in the at the clubhouse, and he goes, I guess I am.
You're so old. I don't like that. He's literally 3 days younger than me. I don't like that at all. That's God, man. We were literally born 3 days apart in St. Louis, Missouri. That's crazy. That's wild. Yeah, I don't like though that he's the old guy.
He's taking to it though. He said he's talking to all these guys, and he's teaching them the right way to do things in the clubhouse, even from like how to tip the clubbies, how to treat the guys that are there to help them and make their lives easier. So he's he is taking on this role, and he talks about some of the guys, and you'll hear it in the interview I did with him. He talks about some of the guys that helped him when he was younger, and throws some names out there of guys that he leaned on early in his career.
Apparently we're on a roll here with right-handed pitchers, Joe. Michael McGreevy, Dustin May, you're saying Ryan Stanek as well. All these interviews going up on the STL Sports Central, or are already up on the STL Sports Central under the videos tab. A lot more coverage to be done, even though you are heading out tomorrow, but still plenty more spring training stuff coming from you and us here at STL Sports Central.
Absolutely, yeah. And today, Klebs talked with Ozzy and with Alec Burleson, so those will be coming up. Victor Scott, who's a huge fan of STL Sports Central, we're hoping to have him on at some point. When I asked him, I said, Vic, can you come on with us? And he was like, absolutely. I need to see myself on Instagram. And he goes, STL Sports Central is all over my YouTube. So he is, he's a big fan of what we're doing. So look forward to talking with him, and hoping to talk to a few others before I get out of here tomorrow night.
All right. Sounds great. Joe, great work as always. Thank you very much for joining us, and get outside and enjoy that weather.
I have been. You guys will be jealous to see how tan I am when I'm back in the office on Wednesday.
Proud of you. There you go. Thanks, Joe. Joe Roderick joining us from Florida, and he will obviously be back with us tomorrow and then make his triumphant return to the office on Wednesday. And Matthew, it really is fun for me. I think a lot of fans hate the idea of a young team that is going to come together and you get to kind of find out about players, and that's what I'm going to be watching for. I'm not tuning in this year to say, how are the Cardinals going to win tonight? I'm tuning in this year to watch the Cardinals and see how somebody grows. What kind of a play can Nolan Gorman make at third? What does J.J. Weatherholt do well at the plate? Is Victor Scott going to run more when he gets on? And he ran a lot last year, but is he going to run anymore? Is Jordan Walker going to be able to lay off that slider low and away? A lot of right-handed hitters never wind up doing that. I think there's a lot of, for me at least, interesting things about this team that'll make it compelling for me to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing we got to work on, Michael McGreevy is going to be a fun player to watch this year. And Joe's trying to figure out the nickname for Michael McGreevy. Randy, I know there's no reason you shouldn't be at the head of the table of the nickname commission. Kingswood Cannon, obviously, is one that we're already trying to get into the lexicon because it's fantastic. That, of course, is Mason Wynn. So we need a little bit of your help on the Michael McGreevy. A lot of dog thought processes going on. He was talking with Michael McGreevy about that. So we need to figure out the nickname because he, I think, is going to be one of the most fun aspects of the Cardinals to watch this year.
Yeah, I will. I'll work on that. We can workshop a little bit and try to come up. We'll come up with a final three, and obviously, people on the chat can come up with a name for Michael McGreevy. And actually, if he stands next to Mark McGwire, he would be Little Mac. So that's one place where you can start.
He is from San Clemente, California.
Yeah, there you go, SoCal guy. So yeah, there's things that we can do to get him a nickname. He does need a nickname. That's what every player needs a nickname. So I think this is a good idea, and I'm glad we're starting on this.
San Clemente to Pomona, California. I'm trying to see how far away Pomona and San Clemente are. They're only 55 minutes. Come on, Little Mac. I like Little Mac. This is something I think we could work with here. I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all. I like what we're doing here right now. By the way, work with us, folks. I love it. Ghostface Gaming throwing out a potential rotation for the Cardinals. May, Liberatore, McGreevy, Dobbins, Palante, or Leahy. Yeah, I'm with it. It seems like. Do you feel like
Dick Fitz is in? I think Dick Fitz is in the rotation. And Dobbins maybe not to start.
Yeah, because he's not healthy yet. Do you still feel like the current is pushing towards Leahy and Palante flipping, with Palante now in the bullpen and Leahy in the lineup or in the rotations?
I think that is a strong possibility. Leahy has the history, obviously, of being in the rotation and has the profile. I mean, he's got 6 pitches. He's got 4 good ones. He profiles as a starter. And I think Palante is a guy, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, his left-right splits favor him against left-handed hitters. So if you only do have one lefty in the bullpen, he might provide you an advantage down there. And with the way bullpens are put together, whether it is Leahy or Palante, Oli is going to want multiple multi-inning relievers down there. And one of those guys, whoever is not in the starting rotation, will wind up being that multi-inning reliever. But I think that they want to give Leahy a chance because he's just got such good stuff. And obviously good stuff plays in the bullpen too. But they're trying to put together a rotation for 27, 28, 29. And I think they want to give him a look. I wonder, though, Matthew, when you get to 27, 28, 29, and Franklin is here, and Leahy, or not Leahy, but Quinn Matthews is here, and the group of young pitchers that you traded for, whether it is a Dobbins or a full Fojakar, whoever it is from Boston,
Fajardo,
and Brandon Clark,
Fajardo.
Yep, and Liam Doyle. I mean, is there going to be room for a pitcher like Kyle Leahy in the rotation when those guys arrive on the scene? Because those guys all have the stuff that the Cardinals want. They've got swing and miss stuff. Leahy has that stuff. Palante, at least to this point, hasn't shown that. He profiles more as a middle reliever.
Is there a world where, because of maybe his arm health, that you dial Quinn Matthews into a bullpen role? Because and ask him to put that all into a smaller amount of pitches?
I think that is something that is probably, if he runs into more arm problems, if he runs into more shoulder issues, then I think that's something that you have to look at. And it's interesting because it can go either way. If you're a starting pitcher and you're having difficulty getting through 5 or 6 innings and you have shoulder issues, okay, that's a bad thing. But you move him to the bullpen and he's throwing 3 times a week. Well, that's not a great thing either. So you have to find out why he has arm issues, but he does have good enough stuff so that he could be a really good reliever. But man, he was a really good pitcher in college and in his first year in pro ball. I think you have to give him every opportunity to be a starter before you move him into the pen. Every opportunity.
I like this from Space Magic Storm. MC McGreevy and DJ Burley Biscuits hosting the post-game raves. I like MC Greevy this is bad, but it's also kind of good. I like how we're rolling right now. You started this segment kind of talking about the young players taking over. Marmol, in one of his recent media availabilities, you guys can watch the full thing here on our YouTube. He talked about it being a new chapter of Cardinals baseball, and I like the way he's framing this.
The reality of it is we're stepping into a new chapter of Cardinal baseball, and the people in that room, and I mean everybody, gets to play a part in defining that. So it was interesting to see certain chapters that have already been written standing in the room, like Ozzy and Izzy and Yadi, but then to not even challenge the group, but just set the expectations for how we're going to do that moving forward. And you get to shape the culture inside that clubhouse and also the style of play outside of it, in between the lines, and that's exciting.
And I know that we had a chat, Matthew, that veteran leadership is overrated, and I don't think it is. And I always go back to that 2006 team, and the 2004 team didn't have a ton, aside from Albert, of experience in winning World Series, and Albert hadn't either. But that group, the Edmonds group, or Edmonds, Albert, Roland, everybody in 2006 that was there for getting swept in 2004 by the Red Sox, went around to the young players like the young hitter, Chris Duncan, the young pitcher, Brad Thompson, and all the veterans went to the kids and said, hey, this is going to go really fast, and you just have to try to do everything you can to slow it down. And that group from 2004 hadn't been told that in the past, before the thing started. Hey, here's what you're going to deal with. And so a guy like Wainwright in 2006, a guy like Randy Flores, those guys that hadn't been through it, they at least had the advantage of having a veteran guy come up and saying, here's what you're in for. And I think there is an advantage to that. If you base it on what happened in 2004 and then what happened in 2006, I think it's pretty obvious. And the players all talk about that too. And the management people, about how it's important to have an adult in the room. You talk to Izzy, and we'll get Izzy on the show and talk about veteran leadership. He makes a big deal of it. So does Ozzie Smith. And Ozzie, George Hendrick, with that 82 team, George Hendrick had played with that Oakland team in the early 70s that won multiple World Series. And so even in 82, Steve Braun had been around the block, and he hadn't played for a world championship, but he had a ton of experience. So Oberkfell, Ozzie, Hernandez, who really hadn't been through it, they were able to pick the brains of people like George Hendrick, Gene Tennis, who was also with that Oakland team. Willie had the opportunity to take advantage of that knowledge, and Jim Cott was on that Cardinal team, and it made a huge difference. And obviously Whitey, having been through playoffs with the Royals before, but even once you get past the first series, Oli hasn't been through that. So I think that sort of knowledge is valuable and would be valuable for this team. Doesn't have to be this year because they aren't going to win, but I think when you get ready to win, when you say, okay, our group of young players is ready to advance and they're going to be playing big games in September, I think having that veteran presence makes a big difference.
And here was Oli Marmol talking about kind of what the plan is with Yadi in spring training and why, to your point, this is something that can really affect this team in a positive manner.
To have him around as much as possible. That's my number one plan. And he's more than open to that. So I know he has to travel to the WBC and he has other responsibilities, but when that's not the case, he's going to be with us as much as possible. And there's no one area, obviously, it's easy to just say work with the catchers, and that's what he's passionate about. But he's passionate about instructing in all areas of the game, and that's what I want him to have his eye open to, is just seeing areas of improvement, being able to talk to players and instill the just competitive nature and courage that he played with, and the attention to detail. Like, that's one of the things we talked about today as a club, is just being obsessed with the small details of the game. And that's something he did extremely well. So having him around and speaking into all areas is my hope.
I think attention to detail is huge. I don't know if being around a competitive person can make another person really competitive. I just don't know. I hope that's the case, because I do think young players need to learn that. But that attention to detail that Oli referenced, I think, is something that these young players can take to heart, because as when he ripped Mike Matheny on social media when he was a player, one of the things that Yadi talked about was how he prepares for every season as if he's going to have to play through October. And I think that's one thing that these players have to build, is that expectation that they're going to play big games in September, play games in October, and be ready to play physically through the end of October. And I can guarantee you that group of catchers that was out on the field with Yadier Molina this morning, they were hearing that exact thing. And those are the sorts of things Al McInnes brought to the young Blues over the course of his time in St. Louis. Those are the sorts of things that when the St. Louis Rams brought in Mike Jones and Ricky Prohl, that was one of the things that they wanted to have young players. And Adam Timmerman, when he signed here, you want to have veteran players that can teach players not only the ropes, we've talked about that a lot, but how important it is to expect to win and prepare for winning.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm just going to read it right now. Benjamin Hockman, just an hour or so ago, posted a new story on STL Today. Cardinals icon Molina camp to help Marmol. Player is pretty damn cool. And the reason why it jumps out to me is this quote from Ivan Herrera inside the story, talking about Yadier Molina, quote unquote, once he's around, everybody's doing the right things. You always try to do the right things, little small things. So he'll be like, I was watching. Like right there, it just, to your point, it's everyone's gonna tighten the bolts a little bit when they know that Yadier Molina is in camp, and having that impact, it is kind of like having another coach, and it's having one that everyone universally respects to that level. It's a pretty useful thing to have for a guy like Oli Marmol in this organization.
And I hope they give Yadi some latitude in being able to not only teach these guys, but teach them the right things. And you talk about attention to detail. A great old story about Don Shula, the winningest coach in NFL history. And during training camp, the Dolphins, who were really good at the time, were running a play and messing it up. And not in a big way, but in a small way. And they run it like half a dozen times, and they're getting ready to run a seventh time. And one of the assistant coaches says, Don, we're only messing up small details here. Let's just move on. And Shula said, there are no small details. Oh, and that really struck a nerve with obviously that assistant, because he brought it to the media and it was a story at one time. But I think that's one of the things the Cardinals will learn from Yadier Molina, that, yeah, it might seem to be a small thing, but groups of small things add up to be big things. And that's why Tony La Russa was a great manager, because Tony La Russa made sure that all of those little things in spring training, whether it was pitchers fielding practice or bunting practice or taking infield or hitting the cutoff man, all of those things not only were worked on, but were improved to the point during spring training where the Cardinals weren't going to mess it up during the regular season. And that's one of the reasons that the Cardinals under Tony, and by the way, under Whitey too, were so great fundamentally, because they really had to work on it in spring training. And that's one of the things Yadi took, I'm sure, from Tony La Russa that he'll impart to the young players. No such thing as a small detail, Matthew.
I love that. It sounds like a very Paul Brown thing that I'm sure is where Shula got it.
Exactly.
Is his first foray into the NFL was with the Cleveland Browns under Paul Brown. One other thing I wanted to get to, because not just talking about Yadi, you heard from Joe Roderick, like the reporting from Derek Gould. Adam Wainwright's going to be involved. They're hoping Derek Freese might be involved as well. And you talked about it with Adam Wainwright years ago about how much having legends and cultivating legendary players across Cardinals history matters to current day players, and how it's a reason why people want to play in St. Louis. And so seeing more of those guys come back to spring training, that's a big factor. And I know guys like Henry Wells, he's in the chat. He says diehard fans are less than 40 days away from packing baseball heaven and beating back the Cardinal Karens who endlessly rip the team. The Cardinal way will never die. Cardinals have the best fans in baseball. They also have plenty of legends. And here's Oli Marmol talking about why getting guys like Yadi and Waino and all these other players back is so important, and the advantage that it gives the Cardinals.
The advantage we have over a lot of other clubs is a rich history, and then the willingness of those guys that made a name for themselves in St. Louis to come back and speak into the culture moving forward. And it's one thing Chaim and I have spent actually a lot of time this offseason on, and I'll kind of give you guys here in the next few days our game plan, but our hope is to have several guys that haven't been in camp in a while back in camp, and start to normalize that as well. So yes, Yadi's one of them for sure that we're excited about. Waino will be another one that we bring back, and there's several others that haven't been around that I think could be impactful for these young guys.
I hope that the Cardinals front office and Oli Marmol and Chaim Bloom, I hope they don't just expect these guys to walk through the door and be thought of as legends. And here's why. And Matthew, I think we need to put this in perspective. I think that they need to, whether it's through video or having other people that they respect, the best thing probably is to show the video. Just go to YouTube. J.J. Weatherholt was born September 10th, 2002. Ozzie Smith played his last game in 1996. So J.J. Weatherholt may not have an awful lot of familiarity with the game that Ozzie Smith played. So I think it's important, maybe not as much with Yadier Molina or Adam Wainwright, but with some of the other guys that have not been around. If they do bring, for example, a Coleman into camp, I think it's important to make sure that the players understand, because a lot of young baseball players, they just go out and play. They really aren't paying an awful lot of attention to the game or the history of the game. I think it's important to make sure that the players understand that these guys are legendary for a particular reason, and then show them what made an Ozzie Smith legendary.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think when you hear how Oli talks about it being an advantage, you'd think that that kind of thought process has gone that deep with them, that we need to convey not only who these guys are, but why they're important, and why it matters when a Ozzie Smith is working with you in a ground ball drill and things like that. And I'm sure some of these guys probably do a lot of sometimes you get one of the reasons that sometimes a player is a dominant athlete is because they're obsessed with the sport, but sometimes you get guys who are just super gifted and never really dive into the history. Mm-hmm. And so How much does J.J. Weatherholt know about Ozzie Smith? He could be a nerd when it comes to baseball, and he could be a huge Ozzie Smith fan, but to your point, you don't really know. But I do think, I think another example would be like a guy like Ray Langford or like Brian Jordan, like guys who are superior athletes who could really show you something, but aren't in any way, shape, or form the everyday names that their level of talent denotes that they could be, when it comes to like taking advice from those kind of guys. Like those are the kind of names, I think, to your point, it's like, I hope there's somebody down there doing a little Gen Z translation for all these guys.
Invite Jimmy Ballgame. Jimmy Ballgame down to spring training. I mean, now here's see, there we go. Jim Edmonds. See, I didn't even see that, but yeah, Jim Edmonds, he's a baseball savant. He's a brilliant baseball mind, and he's great at reading pitchers that are tipping pitches. He's great at understanding the nuance of hitting, and he's also, again, a really competitive guy. He loved winning while he was playing. So I have no problem with if the Cardinals bring Jimmy Edmonds to camp. Speaking of baseball nerds, though, and it was kind of a bummer, but it was great for people like Klebs and I, because we would go down, and Joe talked about how there's no tables in the middle of the clubhouse anymore. We would go down, and you'd have Brock, and you'd have Gibson, and you'd have Ozzie, and you'd have Red, and all these guys would be sitting around just talking ball. And a lot of the players were just going about their business, and they wouldn't come and sit and listen to stories. So we in the media had the great good fortune of just going over and listening to these guys tell baseball stories, and it was incredibly awesome. And it was amazing to me that players in many cases didn't take advantage of it. Some guys like Adam Wainwright did. I think Roland was kind of a baseball historian, but some guys, these guys could have been janitors for all they knew, because they hadn't seen him play and they didn't know who they were. And that's why I think it's important for the players to have an explanation as to what made a guy that's in camp legendary.
Yeah, and I think this should just show to a lot of people just how much Oli Marmol, while he doesn't maybe have the connection to some people for some reason, to like the George Kissel mindset, but like his connection to the history of the Cardinals and his acknowledgement of how important it is, and also the fact that this new chapter of Cardinals baseball just needs to be the Cardinals way, updated with technology and some science and analytics behind it. I think that's a real thing that the older side of the fan base needs to understand, because this clearly is the way they talk about it. They don't want to just completely rebuild this thing, just with Chaim Bloom's mindset. It's about a hybridization of this historical fact and this way you built a team that the Cardinals way has always been about, and it's about actually updating it and actually doing what you need to do as a baseball team in the 21st century, which is you need to push money into scouting, you need to push money into analytics, you need to push money into coaching, you need to push money into technology, TrackMan machines, and apparently special treadmills so that Lars Nootbaar's heels are okay. You need to push yourself forward, and that doesn't mean you have to erase anything about the Cardinal way. But if you don't adapt, you will die. And that's always going to be the truth. And it's good to see the Cardinals have finally figured that out. And I think, again, with the new age of maybe Chaim Bloom and a guy like Oli Marmol, who was young but has all of the old age stuff built into him because he was in Tony La Russa's spring trainings, I think that's why what they're putting together seems so connected, is that these guys do have a singular mind about what needs to go forward, but it's split down the kind of the guardrails where it should, which is Chaim has the larger view and Ollie's thinking about how do I win games day by day. And so it seems like for the first time really since 2019, some would argue 2016, the organization is finally moving forward. And it might be a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of moving forward. But the bottom line is, unlike the past 3 or 4 years, it is forward.
Yeah. And to your point in regard to analytics, down there in Jupiter, in the revamped Roger Dean Stadium complex, they actually have basically a wing set aside for analytics people. And the Cardinals have added a ton of analytics people and still are in the bottom half in terms of the number of analytics guys and gals that they have doing numbers, but they not only are bringing them in, but they're providing them space and equipment, so they'll do a lot better. So I really do think that the Cardinals, if they don't win, it's not going to be because they aren't making an effort to be cutting edge. They might not win because they don't have enough good players, but I don't think it'll be because they aren't trying their way. And we know that they're going to have to. They say, hey, we're going to have to win on the margins. But if they are capable of winning on the margins, I think this is a good group to do it. And I think they're being given the tools by Bill DeWitt Jr. and company. Matthew, we'll hit on a couple of other things, but we do need to talk about your St. Louis Billikens, because they have a big matchup against VCU on Friday, and we're going to have a pregame show, a live pregame show that starts at 3:00 before the Billikens take on VCU. We want you to start your afternoon at the Key at 3:00 and join us. And we'll be talking Billiken basketball. We'll have some great guests over there. And then the game is at 6:00. So we'll have a pregame show, give you plenty of time to get over to Chaifetz Arena and watch the Billikens hopefully come away with another victory over VCU. But it is a Randy Karraker show, 3:00 Friday at the Key in Midtown. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and to some people, you might be thinking 3 hours before the game seems a little early. No. Trust me, okay. I legitimately think if the Billikens win tomorrow night at Rhode Island, there is no reason that Friday against VCU is not going to be just as insane as the end of January against Dayton. And the Dayton game was an hour later. It was a 7 p.m. tip-off, not a 6 p.m. I know for some people on a Friday, it's a little bit tough to get out of work early for the 6 p.m. game as opposed to the 7 p.m. game. But I got down to the 7 p.m. tip-off at 4:50, and the key was already packed with a line out the door. So we're getting you in there at 3 p.m. for a 6 p.m. game, 3 hours before tip-off, so that you're actually getting some pregame food, because the food at the key is fantastic. Smash burgers that'll knock your socks off. They got shrimp tacos, garlic aioli fries. I mean, they all got all your favorites. They got a little bit of some eclectic, crazy things if you want to go there. But I mean, smash burgers, great tacos, patty melts, anything you need. So we're getting you in before the line starts building up, because I guarantee you by the end of the show at 4 p.m., that place is going to be jam-packed for a 6 p.m. tip. If the Billikens are still rolling, because here's the thing on Friday night that could be special, Randy. If they beat Rhodey, they will tie the longest win streak in history of the program back in the 13-14 season, I think was the run, when they won 19 straight. So they will be going potentially for the program record of 20 straight wins that night against VCU. So get down there early. It's going to be an incredible time. It's going to be a really fun show. Talking Billikens. They really are the best show in town right now. So get down to the Key 3 p.m. on Friday before they face off against VCU.
And oh, by the way, you can get a Matthew Rocchio autograph at the Key on Friday. And free. You aren't charging people for the autograph, are you?
No. I mean, I will have glossies with me, but that's just the kind of guy I am. That's just the kind of guy I am. You get a free glossy.
Yeah. And a tough one, by the way, a missed opportunity, not a tough one, missed opportunity for Mizzou on Saturday against Texas. I know that after that game, Joe Lunardi still has them into the tournament as one of the final 4 teams in, but they're playing with fire. And the way I look at it now, you've got 2 games against unranked opponents, Mississippi State, Oklahoma. I think you have to win both of those. And then I think you have to win 2 of your 3 games against ranked teams. Yeah. You got 2 against Arkansas, 1 against Vanderbilt. I think they need to go 4-1 and then probably win a game in the tournament to really assure themselves in the SEC tournament, to assure themselves of a spot in the NCAAs. You agree?
Yeah. And here's the thing. If they beat Arkansas in the first game, will Arkansas still be ranked in the second game? It's one of those things where question. It's like in my mind, they almost have to win back-to-back against Vanderbilt and Arkansas to put themselves really in a spot where, you know, they can maybe only win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament before, you know, it's curtains for them. So, you know, it's just such a disappointing game from the Tigers. National television, primetime game. Everyone's watching it. It's sold out, not primetime, but national television. It's sold out. Everything gets delayed 30 minutes because of a crazy wreck. Obviously, hope everyone's okay there. But it sucked that they weren't in the game for the last 25-30 minutes of the damn thing. That was annoying as hell. Sean Phillips had a bad game. Tio Barrett just completely just turtled up after some really good games, after being put in the starting lineup. Mark Mitchell can't do it himself. They're not. Maybe I have Trent Pierce read wrong, and if a Mizzou coach ever sees me talk about him, he might be screaming at the TV. We're trying to do that. He can't do it, or something along those lines. But just being down by 17 with a lot of the not like 17, it was down 12 with a fair chunk of the second half left to go, and Trent Pierce has 6 shots. And yeah, he was 1 for 6, but still, he's one of the best players. You're only going to win that game by getting him back in a shooting motion, hitting some threes. They don't scheme up the best options, the best mismatches that are on the floor. They just don't do enough from an X's and O's factor. And you know, to be cliche, then they don't have enough of the Jimmies and the Joes to really take over teams beyond that. And so when you have a game like that where 1 or 2 guys is quiet from the field, pack it up.
Yeah. Lunardi does have Mizzou at the moment as his last team into the tournament, last of the 68. By the way, Lunardi also has made a little bit of a change, and I kind of like this. He's moved the Billikens from the East region to the West region, and he's still got them playing here in St. Louis in the first round, but not in Illinois' bracket. Now he does have them with Purdue who would you rather play if you were St. Louis U, Purdue or Illinois? Who do you think is who's a better matchup for the Billikens, Purdue or Illinois?
Neither of them are good matchups, but I'd rather take Purdue all day long because they both have size, but Illinois has Wagler who can go off for 30 any day of the week.
And by the way, he has SLU playing Georgia in the first round, which is not exactly a walkover either.
No, but that's if it's going to be a Power 5 matchup, and it is probably going to be a Power 5 matchup. I wouldn't mind Georgia. I don't hate that one at all.
And especially if you have 19,000 Billiken fans in there.
That would help. I would like that as well. I just really think when it comes to the Billikens at this point, the entire bit of the conversation is get to the 4 or 5 seed. To do that, they're going to need to probably only lose one more game, which means that essentially we're talking about either they blow one here in the regular season, or they don't win the A10 conference tournament. That's essentially the two paths that they get into the 4-5. The reason why is, the 4-5 doesn't really matter. The difference there, you can talk about the 5-12 whole voodoo thing. Doesn't matter. 4-5 is essentially the same thing. That's where you want to get to.
Yep, down to the wire with the college basketball season, and it's a lot of fun. And again, we'll be at the Key on Friday at 3:00 for the Randy Karraker Show here on STL Sports Central. And let's remind folks again that our birthday is on the 17th. February 17th was our first day of 2015. Now it's 2016, over 3.4 million viewers later, and you have the opportunity to win cool stuff. All you need to do is go to our socials, email a screenshot of you being subscribed on YouTube or on Facebook, on Instagram, and on the X, and just use those instructions, and maybe you can win something cool in our 1-year anniversary giveaway here at STL Sports Central. And
I want to a little just a heads up for tomorrow's show. We're going to be starting a tad bit late. Just in honor of how we used to do the show, and we would start 10 or 15 minutes late early on. We're going to start a little late. The actual reason is that the city has their full media day tomorrow, so they're lining up like 12 players for us to interview, and I don't know if I'm going to get out of there in exactly enough time for us to start right on time. So just a little heads up tomorrow. Start time might be more around 3:15 than the usual 3:00. Because I got to get the insider scoop on all the City stuff before we get that season started. Because City kicks off on Saturday afternoon against Charlotte, and then we'll have another team playing here in St. Louis.
I love it. I will be here at 3:10.
There we go.
Thank you, Matthew. Great job as always.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to Wilson for getting us on the air here on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. And we will see you tomorrow at about 3:15. Until then, take care, everyone.